struggling to market to your ideal clientele with old branding that worked for you years ago? This branding gap is playing a huge role in your current client conversion rate, and you may not even know it. We've heard it all before. My website doesn't matter that much, or I'll get to it eventually, but years go by and yet you're still asking the same question. Why am I still working the same weddings at the same price point with no growth? So what does your current brand and website say about you? Does your copy actually captivate your ideal clientele, or are they quickly closing your site and connecting with someone else? It's time to give your brand some pampering at the Creative Cabana, your all-inclusive strategy and design studio. With over a decade of experience as wedding vendors, their full-service team knows exactly how powerful great branding can be for your business growth. Whether you need a complete brand refresh or just a touch-up with services like website design, brand identity, or copywriting, they've got you covered. And for filmmakers out there, they also specialize in logo animations so that your film can feel that much more elevated. This is something I just invested in, and it's brought an entirely new look to my films. So you poured your heart and soul into your business. Now it's time for a brand that connects with your customers on every level. Visit their website today and use our discount code WGY300 for $300 off your first project at creativecabana.co. Welcome to the We Got You podcast, a network curated for wedding photographers and filmmakers that dives deep into the strategies and tactics to transitioning a side hustle in the wedding industry into a full-time, thriving career. We're your hosts, luxury wedding filmmaker Emma K. Films and luxury destination wedding photographer Hannah Brook Photography. It wasn't too long ago that we picked up our cameras for the first time, having absolutely no idea where it would lead us. Years later, we're traveling the globe for beautiful destination weddings, build our dream lifestyles, and run multi-six-figure careers. It didn't happen overnight and it wasn't easy, but it is attainable and so worth it. And we're ready to teach you our strategies. Covering a variety of topics from both our firsthand experiences and reputable guest speakers' insights crucial for business growth, we're exploring the art of marketing within your niche, discussing effective ways to attract and retain clients, leverage social media, and build a strong online presence, and so much more. We're not shying away from talking through the challenges of the wedding industry and offering realistic solutions to navigate them successfully. We emphasize the importance of networking, establishing meaningful relationships with clients, and continuously honing one's craft to stand out in a competitive market. This is the We Got You podcast.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode on the We Got You podcast. We are so excited to have you guys tuning in today because today is a really special episode and we have someone incredible here joining us on the podcast today. We're going to be diving into all about elopements, really how to build and establish an elopement brand. And so if you're somebody who has been wanting to be in that elopement space, who has been craving that destination work, really intimate work with couples, like this episode truly is for you. Again, like I said, we're being joined by somebody who is absolutely perfect for today's episode. The incredibly talented destination elopement photographer, Maddie Mae from Adventure Instead. Maddie has built an incredible business and brand in the elopement space. She's been to 7 continents, 40 countries, photographing in 22 of them, and has worked with so many incredible couples in the last 13 years, which is why we knew we absolutely had to have her on today's episode. Maddie, how are you today?
I'm doing super good. Thanks so much for this chat. I'm really excited to chat with you guys.
Yeah, we are seriously so thankful. Like she was just telling us she's going to so many more countries in the next week and whatnot. And so we're just glad that in her like few days home, she's actually jumping on a podcast episode with us and has made time to be on here today. So we are so grateful that you're here. And really, before we jump into the episode today, we would just love for you to share more about yourself. For anybody listening who might not follow you or know you yet, we would love for you to just like walk us through your journey from start to where you are now in your business and the elopement space.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for asking. I am just anyone who knows me knows I'm absolutely obsessed with elopement. So this is like a hands down favorite topic to chat about. And so kind of like zooming back to like the very beginning of my career, which makes me sound old saying career, but I started photographing weddings when I was 17. So I started photographing weddings back in 2010. Before I knew what elopements even were. I had no idea that this niche even existed when I found myself kind of drawn to the photography space. Like so many photographers that I know, you pick up a camera at some point when you're young, you love playing with it. You love creating beautiful images. You just find that creative spark. And then, I found my love for portraiture. I will never forget like the first time I photographed my best friend in the woods and her homecoming dress. And we were all just playing around being in high school, making weird photos. And I was like, this is amazing. And then, there were two wedding photographers that were parents of friends of mine, and they invited me to come second shoot with them. And that was my first experience shooting a wedding. And I just got hooked. There was something about like the fast pacedness of photographing a live event, and that just constant challenge of like creating the best photos that you possibly can of something that is just occurring in real time, and then the love story of the couple being involved. So there was so much that I loved about photographing weddings when I first started. And I actually photographed big weddings for the first 5 years of my, this is now my 14th season doing this. And, so I loved like the couples. I loved photographing love. I loved working with couples. I did a lot of engagement sessions. I actually found myself, I live here in Colorado. I'm a born and raised Colorado, and I've always loved the outdoors. I always loved nature. And so I was photographing, all these big weddings, but I had a lot of these couples want to do more kind of adventurous engagement shoots. And I loved planning those. There was something that was so exciting for me about having more creative control in the process and being able to give of myself more creatively, and not just in showing up to document something that's already happening, but being able to be a part of creating that experience. So looking back now, I'm like, actually, that was like a really key part of me starting to find that excitement around planning experiences for couples in the outdoors and in nature. So I was doing all these adventurous engagement sessions, shooting all these big weddings. And, but then I started noticing there was parts of these big weddings that I didn't really love. But I just didn't really know that there was another option at the time. Like elopements were not what they are now back in 2013, 14, 15. But I remember seeing a handful of big wedding photographers around the world, photographing a short elopement here and there. And I remember getting that dream. And so really I think the biggest pivotal point in my journey was in 2015. I was like finishing up my business and marketing degree. I went to business school, and I'm like a huge marketing nerd also, in addition to like loving photography. And I was finishing that up. I was deciding, okay, I need to go full time with my business now, because I was shooting weddings part time all throughout college. And that's when I got my very first elopement inquiry. So there was this couple from Texas who had seen some of my adventure engagement sessions. They had seen my, big mountain wedding work. I photographed at a lot of ski resorts, and like there's a lot of like barns and ranches here in Colorado that people get married at. And they said, hey, so kind of crazy question, Maddie. We want to get married in 2 weeks, and we don't have a location. And it's just us. We're eloping. We're coming to Colorado to elope. Will you help us figure out how to do this? Like, we would love your help finding a location for us to say our vows. And I was blown away by that question. I was like, that is the most exciting question anyone has ever asked me, ever. Yes, absolutely. Heck yes. I'm going and I went ham on this assignment. I was like, I am going to scout the most amazing place. They wanted to get married in Rocky Mountain National Park, which is like 45 minutes from my house. Just beautiful, stunning mountains. And I spent like 2 days scouring every inch of that park, being like, I'm going to find the best place for this couple to get to say their vows. And there was something that just lit up in me about this idea of just getting married in this intimate way, just the two of you, the place that that your feet are standing when you get to say your vows, being somewhere that probably no one else has ever stood to get married. It's not like, a venue that hundreds of other people have gotten married at before. It is like your own space, and you're creating this intentional experience. And I had so much fun planning that elopement for that couple. And it just felt like such a natural part of the process because I wanted their photos to be amazing and their experience to be amazing. And so I made sure they were prepped with the right gear because they were from Texas and I knew they wouldn't understand how cold 12,000 feet was in July in Colorado. And it was this beautiful experience. It actually snowed a little bit on their wedding day in mid-July here. We passed like herds of elk driving around. There was this absolutely stunning sunrise. It was this sunrise elopement in Rocky Mountain National Park up at this high elevation. And photographing that day, honestly, like completely changed my life. Like, and I say that dramatically, intentionally, because it was a dramatic experience for me. Like, it was everything that I loved about weddings without all of the stuff that I didn't love about weddings. Like, it was the first wedding day that I'd ever been a part of that I could genuinely say, I think that they enjoyed every single minute of. And they were smiling and just fully present and in the moment the whole day. And there was, I grew up in kind of a really traumatic home environment. And, I didn't realize until I photographed that elopement that every time I photographed a big wedding, seeing father-daughter dances, parent toasts and speeches, all the like family stuff that seeped into big traditional weddings was like, a little mini trauma for me every time I saw that, knowing that that's not something that I could have. I've been estranged from my parents for the last 8 years, like around the time I started photographing elopements. And, they would not be safe people for me to invite into my own wedding experience. And I didn't realize until I shot that elopement, that was the first wedding day that I could ever see myself having. And I just felt completely home. I got in my car afterward and I sobbed my eyes out. And I was like, I don't care if this is not a thing. This is it. I have found the thing that I'm meant to do, that I'm meant to photograph. I am meant to help other couples create experiences like this, because there's got to be other couples out there like me that there's something about a big traditional wedding doesn't jive with them. And I want to show, like, it was such a beautifully celebratory experience. And I want to show people that this is the other way too, that there's another beautiful way to feel celebrated and it can be just as beautiful, if not more beautiful, in my opinion, than a big kind of production style, big wedding. And so that sorry, I took a long time kind of telling that story, but it's like, that was a real pivotal moment for me. And then the next couple of years were a whirlwind. Really, like, I'm so glad that I have a marketing degree, went to business school. I leveraged that first elopement to then book 25 elopements for the following year. I niched down my business immediately, did a hard left turn pivot to deciding to call myself an elopement photographer, even though I didn't see anyone else doing that at the time. By 2017, I photographed 55 elopements that year in 13 countries. My business was just kind of too much for me to handle by myself at that point. I ended up building a team of elopement photographers. So I had 2 other photographers, and then we worked as a team. I rebranded to Adventure Instead, and 2018 to 2022, those 5 seasons, we worked as a team, and the 3 of us have now actually branched back out to each of our own individual businesses. So Adventure Instead is back to being just me now, but I still, like, at the heart of it, have just always loved photographing elopements, and now I spend about half my time photographing elopements, the other half of my time educating photographers. I created the first business and marketing course for photographers who want to specialize in elopements back five years ago. And now I have a new updated program that I invite photographers into who want to learn the business and marketing side of, like, how do you niche down and create a business around, like, working with the clients of your dreams. So
I think that's so incredible hearing your story and just kind of like walking through like your journey, obviously being in this industry for quite a long time and just seeing how it's evolved, how it changed. And also, like, it didn't change overnight. It wasn't something that within the first year or 2 years of your business, everything just clicked and you're where you are today. Like, these things take such a long period of time. And while there are definitely moments, like you were telling us, like very pivotal moments that change the course of your business, it is inspiring to know, like, it doesn't just happen in a day. It doesn't just happen in the first month. I think it's really cool hearing your perspective of really scaling an elopement business, because I think one of the common things in this industry is people think like, oh, well, there's like, I can't make or build a sustainable career doing elopements, because we always like associate elopements with smaller budgets,
And obviously smaller budgets means that we get paid less, right? Like those are definitely common thoughts in the wedding industry. And so it's really cool seeing like you have scaled and grown such an insane business model all through elopements, and even being able to help coordinate them and help plan. As a photographer and even a videographer and a part of an elopement, we already have a lot of the say on what goes on and the timeline and location scouting. So I love that you turned it into like, okay, well, why not then just coordinate at this point with the amount of work that you're doing already? Why not curate that experience for them even more? And obviously that then business wise, like I love that you had done that because that was just like such a great business model.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a really exciting thing, and there's some big differences between like what your job description looks like as a big
Mhm.
wedding photographer versus an elopement photographer. And having done 5 years of big weddings, like your job description as a photographer is show up and take the best photos possible of what's happening. Whereas as
Yeah.
an elopement photographer, clients come to you in the very early stages of their journey with planning, and they are so open minded. Like I'd say 95% of couples inquire with me. They don't have a date. They don't have a location. They don't know how many guests that they want to bring. They're thinking something small, but they're unsure basically about everything in the planning process. And, you can see that as a challenge, but I think it's also a massive opportunity to provide value. I mean, we are creatives. We are in this. We have this incredible expertise. Even if you're newer in this industry, like you've been to more weddings than like any normal person you've probably ever met. Like, I think newer photographers really doubt their ability to
Yeah.
really share their expertise. And I think all of us have a lot more expertise than we even realize. And like being like your ability to create beautiful photos, like about like what kind of locations, about light, about time of day, about so many things that you could use as a part of your business and create and provide additional value to your clients. There's just not as much opportunity for that with a big wedding because there's so much stuff that's set in stone. Like, we've booked it. Like, here's my venue. Here's my date. Are you available? Will you photograph it? That's what a big wedding inquiry feels like. When an eloping couple is asking is like, I have this vague idea of an experience that I want. Can you help me create it and photograph it? And
Mhm.
so the experience creation part of being an elopement photographer, everything from planning logistics to the flow of the day to the emotional highs and lows that you walk them through, as like you're the only other person sometimes that's even at their wedding day, the only person cheering when they get married. It's honestly, it still bowls me over. Like, every time I'm still like, do I have such an honor to get to be this person? I mean, this couple, like, they have family and friends that like know them so much better than I do, and yet I'm the person getting to witness this moment and then document it. And it is this huge responsibility, but it's also insanely exciting, and it's been the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life.
Does your current client delivery system feel unexciting, limiting, and boring? Maybe you're still using good old Google Drive or Dropbox to deliver your clients' wedding films. If the answer to these is yes, it's time to level up your video delivery experience with VidFlow. VidFlow is a pay-per-use online platform that allows you to deliver fully branded websites for each of your clients. While being incredibly affordable, VidFlow is accessible on mobile, desktop, and smart TVs with included long-term hosting so that your clients can truly enjoy the entire experience when receiving their wedding films. When I first found VidFlow, it was such an easy switch that truly benefited my business substantially. With so many incredible features and options for customization and personalization, VidFlow continues to wow my clients time and time again. You can find VidFlow on Instagram or visit their website at vidflow.co. Use our code WGY20 for 20% off a yearly premium membership and level up your client experience today with VidFlow. I'd love to know really how your branding has shifted for when you first got into elopement photography. I think like a lot of people think, well, you have to obviously really be one with nature. Is that the case? Like, yeah, just kind of walk us through like what the branding shift was when you really were going into elopements.
Yeah, I love that you asked this question because I like am super into branding. That's like a big part of the marketing that I love nerding out about, because branding is such a big part of you being able to communicate to the world why they should hire you, what's different about you, what's unique about you, how are you different than the other photographers like around you? And that can be kind of a scary question if you're not sure the answer to that, but the answers are all there. I mean, every single photographer that I've met, whether they realize it or not, there's something completely unbelievably unique about the way they photograph, the way that they work with couples, who they are as a person, their experience, their expertise, the energy that they bring to the day. All of us are really one of a kind artists, and it's your brand that communicates that to the world. And like ultimately, like having a brand that sets you apart from the photographer next to you is such a huge piece of your own business success. And so it's something that also like evolves a lot throughout your career. It's not this stagnant thing. You make a brand once and then you're like, good, I'm set. Like I have done many, many, many rebrands over the journey. I probably do a pretty significant rebrand almost every 2 years because your dreams change. Who you want to be working with changes. Where you want to be working changes. You start refining and finding your people more and more as you go throughout this, as you go throughout the journey. So when I first started in elopements, I personally am very drawn to nature and to adventure and to outside. When I first started shooting, 2015, 2016, 2017, my branding was all about the most extreme, high adrenaline adventure type of elopement experiences. And, I was always, being like, it's so amazing. We did this 10-mile sunrise hike. It was incredible. And it was, and I really enjoyed so many of my experiences there. One thing that I self-reflected on, that it didn't dawn on me until I had a couple one time inquire with me and get on a phone call. And they were apologizing to me for not being adventurous. And they said, we still hope that you'd want to work with us. Like, we're not big into hikers. We're not sure we can do 10 miles. Like, I don't know if you'd still want to photograph our day. And I was heartbroken to hear that. I was like, wow, I never meant to alienate anybody, but I didn't realize that, I'm not being inclusive enough with my brand messaging. I really want everyone to believe that adventure and nature is for everyone. Like, that is what I believe. And I didn't realize that because I was so like putting that at the forefront of my brand 24/7, that I was inadvertently putting a message out there like, you have to be this crazy hardcore adventurer to have an elopement with me. And I think, like, to be perfectly transparent, I think because myself and a couple of other big name elopement photographers in the kind of beginning of the explosion of this industry were all adventurous outdoor elopement photographers. A lot of people believe that elopements equal an outdoor adventure elopement, when in reality that is not true at all. Like, what an elopement is an intentionally small wedding experience where the focus of the day is about the couple. That's what an elopement is. It has nothing to do with where it is. It does not have to be outside. It does not have to be adventurous. It doesn't have to be in a crazy destination. It is like elopements can happen in your backyard, in your, like a city park. They can happen in a city hall. They can happen in, your like in your parents' backyard. They can happen in a venue. They can happen, on the top of a skyscraper. Like you can elope absolutely anywhere. Like the word elopement, I would love to break the fact that so many people believe that you have to be this crazy outdoor adventurous person to elope or to photograph like elopements. There are so many people who crave an intentionally intimate wedding day that is just about them, that has no distractions. But they're not, I mean, think about the percentage of the population is outdoorsy. It's not everyone, right? And like, there's just as many types of people who want to elope as there are people who want to have a big wedding. So they should not be synonymous terms. My niche happens to be outdoor adventure elopements, but even that branding has changed over time. I'm now a lot more about slow paced, relaxed, chill outdoor experiences, not roughing it. I'm not into sunrise and hiking at 10 miles and getting up at 1 a.m. and doing you don't have to do something crazy extreme to have an incredible experience. So I do a lot more sailboats and helicopters and hot air balloons and, just like stargazing and hot spring, a lot more relaxed, more kind of honeymoon style destination elopements now. But again, I'm talking about a niche within a niche within a niche within a niche. The whole elopement space and how all encompassing and welcoming it is, not just to couples, but also to photographers, is just as broad and varied as the big wedding industry is.
I absolutely love how you broke down what elopement photography is. Sorry, that's my dog. I love how you talked about that, because I think that so many people fall into this trap of, I either need to do like weddings, bigger weddings, even like smaller weddings, or these adventure elopements that are destinations and going somewhere crazy and hiking 10 miles. And a lot of people who don't feel that draw towards wedding days, and they're like, okay, elopements, those, like, that's for me. That's what I want to photograph. That's where my heart is. That's where my passion is. And then they go into that elopement space and they just feel it so crowded of these like crazy adventures and hiking 10 miles and waking up at the crack of dawn to go up this huge mountain. They're like, that's not for me either. And you all can almost feel stuck and feel like you're required to revert back to those wedding days. And I know several people who have felt stuck in that spot. So just the fact that you're talking about like elopements can literally be anything. And like for everyone listening, like I hope that's a really refreshing thought to think about. Like elopements can be in a wedding venue. Like when you really truly think about it, it is so personalized on the couple. Obviously, photographers can be drawn towards specific niches of elopements. Maybe the hiking 10 miles is for you. It's definitely not for me, never has been. But like maybe that is something that you love. And so like that is a niche within elopements that you can be drawn towards and really market and really love on and whatnot. But it's really incredible to know that there's other niches within elopements. Elopement isn't the end all niche. Like there are other avenues that you can take. And I think that that's something that we forget a lot, especially with branding. You know, branding is communicating what is different about your business. You know, it doesn't have to be the same elopement that everybody else is portraying. And so I love that you put that out there, because I think so many people get stuck in that. Like, I have to do this crazy adventure.
Yeah, I think whenever you see a space where everyone is always doing the same thing, maybe it's just the way that my brain works, but I'm always like, how can I be different? Who is not included in that? You know, because, and that's so true. And I've been really excited to see, as an educator, seeing more of my students create brands that are like the anti-adventure elopement brand, like creating elopement brands for couples who don't want to rough it in nature, don't want to do hiking, you know, and, you know, I love seeing like big city glam elopement brands, urban elopements, low key elopements, like, you know, and that low key does not mean low cost. It means it's a quality of an experience that a couple wants. And, you know, they're still going to want to like work with a photographer whose style that they love and have an experience that, you know, they want an intentional like expert to curate that experience for them. But a big change in branding, like from like as an educator, like one thing that I've observed when elopements first emerged as a niche, it was specialized to call yourself an elopement photographer. That was different. That was unique. That was something that stood out. As this industry has evolved and expanded, that's no longer specialized. Like, just like saying you're a wedding photographer is not that specialized. It's like, what type of wedding photographer are you? Like, who are your dream clients? And so that's what I'm always like encouraging my students to really push for, is to like lean into that thing that really lights them up and build your brand around that so that you can most strongly magnetize those people to you.
Yeah, well, and I'm curious to know too, especially when you're talking about like what elopements look like and how they can be so different. How would you say that like you allow for that intimate, unique experience and being authentic, being spontaneous, like going with the wind and whatnot, to then also being planned and organized and whatnot? Like, how would you say you balance those two things? Because I feel like on a wedding day, it is very organized, very planned. You've got that timeline. And elopements, a lot of them can be very much like, okay, we show up whenever or whatnot. But like, how do you, I guess, balance the two and kind of mix those into your elopement days?
Yeah, so there's a couple things, and a lot of it comes into like the planning workflow that I have with clients that, you know, starts early on when I'm asking them about their vision for their day and hearing what they want out of the experience. And really I use the word coordinator, but I actually think a even more descriptive word would be like experience designer, because that's really what I'm doing for couples. Is like, you know, kind of like an architect would. Like if you asked an architect, hey, I have this idea, I want you to build me a dream house. The architect would ask you, okay, well, tell me all the things that you want, And then they would go off and use their experience to, create like a draft, some sort of like a design for it, and then ask for your feedback. I basically am doing the same thing with my eloping couples. I'm asking, what do you want out of your experience? And then presenting them with like kind of a draft plan with a lot of ideas, and it being really flexible for them to kind of give me feedback. And then throughout the planning process, it gets more and more refined to the point where we are building out a timeline. But I think there's a couple of key things that help balance that with an elopement. Number one is time. It's been a massive difference going from, when I first started photographing elopements, everyone around me, all I saw was people offering 1 or 2 hour elopement packages. And, and I think having come from the big wedding space, and that's all I did for 5 years, that honestly confused the heck out of me. I was like, why? Why are we only offering couples 1 or 2 hours? Why wouldn't they also want a full day experience? Why wouldn't they also want a full gallery of photos of the day that they got married? It's still their wedding day. It's still going to be the date they celebrate their anniversary for the rest of their life. Like it's important. We should act like it is, and offering only like long, all day, multi-day coverage for elopement sends a clear message to couples. Your day matters to me enough that I think you are going to want the whole story of your elopement day told. And so communicating the value of time and an all-day elopement experience is a really big piece of the equation. And really kind of a simple way to do that for couples to expand their mindset of what they're envisioning for their elopement day. When a couple comes to me wanting something short, I never take it personally. That's just like the messaging that they've seen somewhere and they haven't thought about it like differently. So it's about changing their mindset, saying like, okay, so like your elopement day is more than just reading your vows and taking some photos. Like you are going to get up in the morning. You're going to have a slow morning getting ready together. You might be finishing copying your vows into your vow book. You're going to be like in that contemplative state of like getting ready, putting on your wedding attire. Maybe there would be a moment where you guys want to see each other for the first time in your wedding attire. There's going to be some sort of journey to wherever we go for your elopement, and how are we going to get there, and what you might want to see and do along the way. What are your guys' favorite activities? If you guys were designing a perfect day, like an all-day date together, what would that look like? And, and then I'm asking couples these questions on the phone call, getting to really know them, and then kind of painting them a verbal picture of what this whole experience could look like that is aligned and personalized, unique to them and to their relationship, to where it does feel like, oh my gosh, this is not just vows and some portraits. Like this is a whole beautiful experience. It's going to make us feel really celebrated, and make this day not just feel like any other day, but feel like an important, meaningful day that matters to us. And eloping couples, that's a big fear of eloping couples, is not feeling as celebrated as if they had a big wedding. And so creating an experience and encouraging couples to make a day of it, I think is not just great from a like financially sustainable perspective as an elopement photographer, but it also means so much to the couple that you like show that they can have more than they were even imagining at the beginning. So having enough time is number one of balancing that ability to be spontaneous and be relaxed, but it also like having the space and carving out the time to make it happen from a logistical perspective. And so I do create pretty like detailed elopement timelines for our couples. I want to know where the sunrise time, sunset time is. I want to make sure we have ample time to do all their experiences and their activities and go to the different places. But I leave everything roomy enough that there is time for change. There's time for them to stay later and change their mind and do things. I have parts of the timeline that say, hey, this is a flexible 2 hours. Here's some options. You can see how you feel day of. So a lot of it is in making sure they book enough time. And then the other part is in the way that the timeline is actually crafted to. Here are some things that are important times that we do hit, but this other time in between it is relaxed and is spontaneous. And the third part is not just being excellent at making that plan A experience design for a couple, but I think a big, big important skill of being an elopement intimate wedding photographer, a destination wedding photographer, is being able to pivot quickly last minute if you would need to, being able to quickly come up with those plan Bs and plan Cs and plan Ds if nature doesn't play along that day, or if something logistically goes wrong, or if something's running behind.
I love that. And I think even on both sides of the wedding industry, whether you're in luxury or whether you're in the elopement space, you need to be flexible. You need to be able to adapt. We oftentimes want to get into this like, no, I'd like just love following the timeline and I love feeling like everything is just the same. But it's never like that. Every single wedding, every single elopement, every single experience is so unique. And so we have to be flexible. We have to be able to adapt. And we also do need to be thinking about what would a plan B look like. You can prepare as much as you want, but the day of, things can always go a different route. So I think it's really encouraging hearing that and just leaving enough time on the timeline to be able to give your couples that experience without them feeling rushed or stressed, and also gives you enough time to really tell their story. So I'd love to know, before we close this episode, because we seriously could go on and on and on chatting about this, but would love to know, what is a piece of advice that you would give for someone who maybe is listening to this episode and is like, I love doing elopements, but I just have no idea, like I would love to just do elopements and really scale out that business. What is a piece of advice that you would give them that they're just looking to do this more and to really niche out to elopements only?
Yeah, I love that. I think my best piece of advice, and not just for elopement photographers, but any photographer in the industry, is utilize all of the skills that you use to create beautiful photos. Use all of that creativity and that passion that you use as a photographer. Use it in how you brand and how you market your business. I feel like most photographers keep their creativity to the creative work, and then they're always wanting to follow someone else's template when it comes to the business side, and they forget that they are a deeply creative, intuitive person with the capacity to create something completely unique and completely one of a kind. And so that's what I'm always encouraging students to do, is like lean into your intuition, use your creativity. You literally create something out of nothing every single day as a photographer, and you have the capacity to do this exact same thing with your business. It can feel like marketing and business and all of this is like I think the biggest mistake that a lot of people make going into the elopement space is creating a brand that looks just like everybody else's. There's a lot of brand homogeny in this industry in general, where you go on wedding photographer sites or elopement photographer sites and you start to see and hear the exact same kind of words. They all start to kind of blend together. They all start to look and kind of feel the same. And so a big encouragement for anyone wanting to specifically dive into the elopement space, the unconventional wedding space, the non-traditional wedding space, the intimate wedding space, you are trying to attract couples who want to do things differently. And they are specifically looking for a creative that is also doing things differently. They are looking for someone who can create and bring into reality a unique vision that doesn't look the same as everybody else's weddings. They're intentionally choosing to do something different. So your brand also needs to be different. It needs to stand out. You need to do that introspective process of figuring out what is it about you that is different than what other photographers around you are doing? What are you seeing going on in the industry that bothers you? What do you wish you could change in the industry if you could? How can you make your brand a cozy home for the non-traditional, for the misfits of the big traditional wedding industry that has all of these things set in stone? How can you make your brand a cozy home for that? And then just one other tip on a more practical level would be, go out there and plan and shoot a all-day elopement style shoot. I think that's one of the most profoundly helpful things anyone can do starting in this space. And setting up a styled shoot can sound like this huge task, but truly, it does not have to be, especially with elopements. They can be extremely simple, extremely affordable, extremely non-complicated. All you need is a couple that who hopefully maybe already has wedding attire, or to get some really affordable wedding attire on Amazon or Lulu's or Poshmark or something like that, and work with that couple like you would a real couple. Ask them what would be the most amazing all day date that you guys could do. What could we where would you want to go? What would you want to do next? What would you want to eat and drink? How would you want to celebrate? And then at some point in there, you might be in a beautiful place, whether that's indoors or outdoors, where that couple can read love letters to each other or read vows to each other, reread their vows to each other, do a vow renewal, whatever it is, have this special moment where they share how much they love each other in that experience. And you can photograph that part as being the ceremony part of this all day elopement styled shoot. But do the getting ready, do the whole experience, tell the whole story of the whole day, wrap up with some sort of beautiful celebration. You'll get so much experience of what goes into the planning process by doing that for a real elopement. You'll end up with a full gallery of a beautiful elopement story that then, showing is always more powerful than telling. And so if you want to get hired for an all day elopement, having an all day elopement gallery to show someone is the most powerful way to do it, because they can then imagine why they would want photos of their whole day, not just the ceremony and some portraits. And so those are kind of my two biggest, most important tangible tips of advice for someone wanting to get into this space. But it is a beautiful space. There's so much room here. This industry has evolved and grown in just so much incredible ways. Like COVID was honestly has such an interesting effect on this industry, in the sense that, the biggest barrier to someone eloping now is not like necessarily not knowing that eloping is an option, because like in 2020, eloping was really the only option for in many places for getting married. And so the awareness of elopements has never been higher, particularly with Gen Z being the biggest population of who's getting married now. They're all about wanting something that's unique and personal to them. And, having a non-traditional wedding or an elopement or an intimate wedding has never been more popular with this generation who is getting married now. And there's just as much space and just as much room and just as many types and styles of couples wanting elopements as there are big traditional weddings. So come on in. There's room for all of us in here. And I just want everyone to be able to, have work with the couples that really light them up.
It is so incredibly refreshing to listen to you share all of this and just share your education and wisdom and things that you've learned over the last decade of, working with elopement photography and everything. Because I genuinely think there needs to be more space for elopement education. And I feel like when I was even deciding if I want to do weddings or elopement, there just wasn't that education. And so it was just getting to hear all of this is almost refreshing and a little healing part of okay, this is such a big industry and piece of the industry that I really am praying people listening feel that they can be part of. And if that is something that they are called to and feel like that's where their passion is, I really hope that they feel like they are ready to pursue that and willing to take the chance on pursuing it and seeing what can come of their business with it. I am so grateful that you came on today's episode, because like we said earlier, there's nobody else that we could imagine to be more perfect to talk about this. And we were spot on, because listening to you, we could go on forever. So we're so grateful for you. And before we close, we would really love to just get your Instagram and website for our audience so that anyone who isn't following you is able to. And then I know that you had mentioned a course for elopement photographers or a group that you were educating with. So if you could just share a little bit about that too, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. I agree with everything that you just said. So my Instagram for my photography business is at Adventure Instead. And then for my education, it's at Adventure Instead Academy. So my website is adventureinstead.com. If you're looking for my education, it's adventureinstead.com/academy. That's all you'll find. All of my education for photographers. I have loads of free education for anyone wanting to get started in the elopement space or learn pricing or branding or marketing or sales. How do you sell an all-day elopement? I have lots of free resources on my site, and I have free workshops as well that I've taught live. A really great place to join is my free educational Facebook group, which is called Weddings and Wanderlust. So it's facebook.com/groups/weddings and wanderlust. So that's a free community of over 25,000 over 25,000 photographers worldwide who are interested in adventure weddings, elopements, intimate destination weddings, really like that whole kind of spectrum of non-traditional weddings. That's where I share a lot of tips. I answer people's questions for free every single day. That's where I would suggest diving in and getting started. If you're looking for my full programs, my all-in-one business and marketing program, which also includes monthly Zoom mentoring calls with me and the other students, is called Thrive. Thrive, the Business of Unconventional Weddings and Elopements. That's what my program is called. So it's a comprehensive online course and it's a mentorship experience. So it's like a hybrid program that's kind of like part mastermind, part coaching, and part online course. That would be a great thing to check out. That's on my website as well. I also have another collaborative photography course that I created with the photographer Henry Tu, who's based out of Seattle. He and I created a course just about the creative side of what we do. So photography, client experience, editing, lighting, composition, storytelling, posing, all of that. That's in our course called The Art of Adventure Weddings and Elopements. So got the business course for all the business and marketing stuff. And then there's the art course for the photography side. So those are my two primary, like big educational programs. And you can find all of that at adventureinstead.com/academy.
Amazing. Thank you so much again for jumping on here, especially in the midst of your busy season and traveling, and just sharing with our audience and really just like speaking on elopement photography, elopement branding and everything. We appreciate it so much more than you know. Again, are so grateful you took the time to jump on here. And for everybody listening, we will see you guys next week on the We Got You podcast. Thanks for listening to another episode of the We Got You podcast. We would absolutely love it if you could take an extra minute to leave us a review and let us know what you think. DM us a screenshot of it and we'll send you a coffee on us. If you want access to an exclusive community, rad freebies, giveaways, and wedding referrals, then join our Facebook group today. Also, if you aren't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that you're following along on Instagram at WeGotYou_podcast to stay up to date. We'll see you next week on the We Got You podcast.